Mississippi, if you did not know, is where Elvis Presley is originally from. And there is a major Elvis Presley influence in this documentary. It is still very much to this day a really, really big deal over in Tupelo to have Elvis impersonators all over, making it an actual like side hustle gig that people are doing, and people have like Elvis fan clubs, like all kinds of stuff. What the documentary is based on is about a guy, and his name is Paul Kevin Curtis. Paul Kevin Curtis, Paul Kevin Curtis. Paul Kevin Curtis, or also referred to in the documentary as KC, is an Elvis impersonator, a big lover of Elvis Presley. He is a father, and he also, at some point, it mentions in the documentary that he opens up a cleaning business. So he starts a cleaning business, and then he somehow lands a contract with the state hospital in Tupelo, like the Mississippi State Hospital, and for him to clean. So it's like a really big contract for him. Then, and this is all long story short, of course, but then in the process of him cleaning, he goes to like what I believe they referenced was like similar to like a walk-in, you know, in a restaurant where you have like the big walk-in refrigerator. It's about this, similar to that, where he walked in and then essentially he found a severed head and other body parts, other human body parts. Okay, this is where the story takes a turn. This is where it gets juicy. He sees this and he is heavily affected by this. He is telling everybody. He's not keeping it to himself. And they mentioned in the documentary that family members were like, dude, this is a big contract for you. This is money. This is, you know, your bag. Okay, don't mess with this. Just keep your mouth shut, basically. However, he could not do that. Like, he was so affected by this, and it consumed him. After seeing this, Paul Kevin Curtis, Casey, goes on what is essentially a straight up campaign that is all based on, you know, Mississippi is horrible and corrupt. They're selling and using human body parts, and crazy stuff is going on. And at first, the family was like, okay, he's just affected by this, and it'll die off. They thought it was just a phase, but no, he took this so seriously, and to the point that he obviously lost his contract with the state hospital. He ends up becoming unemployed. He is not really making any money. He literally locks himself in a room all day. Like, keep in mind that they had his ex-wife. He was in the documentary. His brother, like several people to corroborate all of this. So he locks himself in a room all day. He's on the dark web because he's like, now I'm going heavy on full force. Like, he is determined. His main objective is get a House bill passed in the state of Mississippi to ban the illegal selling of body parts, which, you know, whatever. Long story short, his life crumbles. His wife obviously is like, she's the one that's having to go to work, and it turns out that his brother, who is also an Elvis impersonator, they would have a show together called Double Trouble. They would do Elvis acts and impersonations together, where they would sing and dance, play music, the whole thing. And so the wife ends up, you know, going to work for the brother. That the ex-wife in the documentary, I feel two things. Number one, I give her grace because being a mom and being a wife and being neglected like that all day by your husband, going on the dark web and throwing his life away due to this conspiracy and being on this pursuit to take down the corrupt state of Mississippi, like, I give her grace in that it would be difficult to be married to somebody like that. That would not be an easy situation to navigate as a wife. Like, we're talking low. she was kind of messy. You know, if you're gonna step out and you're done with the marriage, maybe don't do it with your brother-in-law. And she didn't explicitly say that in the documentary, but they were like, okay, well, what were you and him? What was your guys' relationship like? And she was like, and like, I don't know, I forget exactly what she answered, but it was something that basically was like, okay, yeah, you guys had an inappropriate relationship, you probably had an affair. But what was most suspicious to me was that he was married to, I believe, and I don't know if he still is, but they didn't really clarify that in the documentary. But due to him going down this path of being a dedicated, insane conspiracy theorist, everybody kind of views him as lightweight, quacky, kind of crazy. They're having a hard time taking him seriously, and everyone's just kind of like, oh yeah, that's Casey, that's Paul Kevin Curtis. And then where it really takes a turn and gets crazy is that there were a series of letters, and keep in mind that Paul Kevin Curtis, it was not unlike him to send letters to government officials, especially like the state senator for Mississippi, all these other politicians, to pass this bill that he really wanted passed, that was to ban the illegal sale of human body parts. Like, keep that in mind, that it was not unlike him to send letters to politicians, government officials. But it takes a turn when there was a series of letters that were sent to various high-level government officials and politicians, one of them being the President of the United States. And as all of you know, that is a very, very serious thing, because it's like, whoa, hold up, we're gonna nip this in the bud, because what kind of psycho is trying to make a threat to the president? So the government launches an investigation, and like I said, because of his behavior before, they kind of put the pieces together, and they're like, wait a minute, we think we have our guy, Paul Kevin Curtis. Like, he's insane. He talks about this stuff. He sent letters. Like, it's all adding up. It makes sense. And in the documentary, you're kind of like, the best part about this documentary is you literally never know where it's gonna go. Like, you do not know what's gonna happen next. And I could not have guessed what was gonna happen when I first started watching this. I never guessed where this documentary went. But it turns out it was not Paul Kevin Curtis. I'm gonna put down spoiler alert, by the way, because obviously I don't want you guys watching this, but this is for people that have watched it and just, I don't know, want to hear someone else talk about it. Paul Kevin Curtis is not the person who sent the letters. And did I mention that there was a poisonous substance in the letters? It was a poisonous substance called ricin. And so the investigators started questioning Paul Kevin Curtis being a legit suspect, because he genuinely appeared so confused about what ricin was when they were trying to confront him, because they were doing their interrogation and they were like, what do you know about ricin? Or they're like, we know what you did. And Paul Kevin Curtis was genuinely like, well, I mean, I don't really eat rice. I only eat rice when I eat Chinese food. And then the investigator's like, wait a minute, this can't be our guy, because he's like, because he didn't even know what ricin was. He thought that they asked him about rice, not ricin. The whole thing was just comedy. It was crazy to watch. But it turns out that the person that sent these letters was actually a guy that Paul Kevin Curtis knew. The guy hated Paul Kevin Curtis. The guy actually worked for Casey's brother, and was also trying to become a politician. I think he was running for Congress. I forget the guy's name. It was Everett Durtsky, something like that. And he was a part, again, very much weird, like Paul Kevin Curtis, where he was into politics, was doing karate, was on this whole campaign. He was a conservative Republican type of guy. And anyway, but he hated Paul Kevin Curtis, and he thought he was super wacky. And they got into it, and they both couldn't stand each other. But Paul Kevin Curtis did something that really set Everett off, basically. And so Paul Kevin Curtis was just trolling this guy, and he ends up posting on Facebook, you know, certified Mensa graduate, something crazy, but the Everett guy took it so seriously, and he was like, I'm demanding that you take this down, and it was ridiculous. But I think that might have been what really ticked him off. I could be wrong. They were also drawing parallels to Elvis Presley and this situation again, because apparently Priscilla Presley left Elvis, or cheated on Elvis with his karate instructor. And so the Everett guy, he also, I think, was having like somewhat of an inappropriate relationship as well with Paul Kevin Curtis's wife, because they were working at the same office. The Everett guy worked for Paul Kevin Curtis's brother at the insurance agency, and Laura, the wife, worked at the insurance agency as a receptionist. That's why I'm saying she's kind of messy, or appeared that way in the documentary. No hate, but anyway. So it turns out, just to wrap this up, because this is turning into a longer ramble than I thought it was going to be, but turns out that Everett was the one that did it. They finally caught on to him doing it. Paul Kevin Curtis was in custody prior to them really solidifying that Everett was the one to do it, because they genuinely thought Casey was the guy. But then after that, he gets out, and then he goes on various like talk shows on the news, and it was just really funny seeing a full circle moment for him, because that was everything that he ever wanted before, to be able to talk about the things that he was researching and stuff. And then he finally got it, but totally not in the way that